clean!
Mic on? Oh, okay. Yep, I'm back for a lengthy video to talk about this game for an extended period of time. Some of you might be a little confused because I was talking about this game in a negative light for quite a few months, and I was. It's a long story, and this is a big game with a lot to cover. There's a lot of good to talk about, and a bunch of ugly. If you've never heard or played a Total War game, it's a strategy game series that encompasses a campaign map with empire management, with the other half of the experience being RTS battles with units that you recruited on the campaign map. Total War has had its many ups and downs over the years, but my first experience was with the OG Rome Total War, a very good experience and a wonderful time sink of mine when I had an absolute garbage tier laptop that couldn't run anything. Yeah, it had plenty of exploits, but it's an absolute classic coming in nearly 20 years of being around. After messing with Medieval 2 for a while, I got into Warhammer 2 in its later stage, and then here with Warhammer 3. Like I said before, we have a lot to get into, but before we can get into the good, we have to talk about the ugly. Before we get into the game itself, we have to talk about the fact that this game was released in a rather abysmal state, as with the trend of modern gaming.
Although, believe me, we never ever intended for anything like this to happen.
This is fucking bullshit.
Yes, Creative Assembly has done this multiple times at this point. That doesn't give them an excuse. Release it broken and lacking content, fix it later. This resulted in a very sour reception from the community, as obviously we don't like this sort of thing happening when we pay full price for a game. My first impression of the game when it was released was the fact that half of the buttons on the main menu didn't work. When I first loaded up the game, the first thing that I noted was that I couldn't even click half of the buttons on the main menu. This seems to have been fixed with the first patch, but holy shit. How do you release a game where the fucking menu buttons don't even work for people? Could you imagine this shit happening on a consistent basis 20 years ago? I certainly couldn't, because I remember that games actually fucking worked on release. But I guess that's asking too much now, isn't it? I guess I'm being too mean though, aren't I? To expect menu buttons to work. And the game was constantly crashing from a variety of issues. Since then, there has been 4 major patches for the game, and the majority of the issues have been ironed out. Either way, the launch was a pretty big slap in the face of the fans when the alternative move could have been a delay in the game's release because it absolutely needed it. But here we are. We have what we have. Another problem was the usual modern gaming business practice of shipping the game with day 1 DLC and baiting people into pre-ordering the game so they didn't have to pay for the Ogre Kingdoms faction. Coupled with the absolute buggy shit show, yeah, that made things even worse. And don't get me started about the Blood DLC.
To have money.
I've bitched about it non-stop. Any reasonable person should recognize that gating off what has been an essential feature of video games for decades behind a paywall presents a very anti-consumer sentiment. It gets you wondering on what other basic aspects of a video game could be ripped out and sold in extra pieces to squeeze out customers as much as possible. Yes, if you had the Blood DLC from the previous games, you got this one free of charge, but it shouldn't have been that way in the first place. I absolutely love the state of the game industry if you couldn't tell. Okay, rant over. Game time. Warhammer 3 has 3 campaigns to play, with a mountain of content to dig around with, which is why this video is going to be as long as it is. We have the Prologue tutorial campaign, which is what establishes the plot of the main campaign that this game shipped with, the Realm of Chaos. Then we have Immortal Empires, a megamap campaign that was recently added made up of the content from all 3 games in the trilogy. All the work done so far by the developers has led to this point, and I'll have a fun time chatting about it. The sheer amount of effort put into the battle maps and the campaign maps is absolutely crazy, especially with the siege maps being entirely overhauled from Game 2. They're just filled with eye candy, and by God, those Realm of Chaos battle maps just... look at the place, it's amazing. Jumping over to Immortal Empires, I spent a significant amount of time just looking at the map because of how much there is to see. Eye candy everywhere, including how corruption affects provinces on the map. I do see that the campaign maps have gotten a bit of a visual change, with it looking more vibrant, I guess I could say. It probably has to do with the trees, but either way, I still love it. Big props to the environment artist that had to take on this massive workload. Oh yeah, there's also 2 mini-campaigns for people to mess around in, Darkness and Disharmony and Something Rotten in Kislev. These aren't anything particularly special, so I'm not going to say much about them. They're cut-off sections of the Realm of Chaos map, more meant as scenarios that can be completed in a single session with friends. They're fine, so if you want to mess around with them, go for it. With that, let's get into the prologue. The prologue, also known as The Lost God, is a pretty good tutorial campaign. It teaches new players the basics on what they need to know, while also offering a well-presented story experience. It follows the character Yuri as he journeys through the Chaos Wastes. Kislev's bear god Urson is supposed to end the brutal winter, but he's gone silent. As a result, Kislev suffers greatly and Yuri is sent north to figure out what the hell is going on. The voice of who is supposedly Urson coerces Yuri to continue venturing into the Chaos Wastes, completing tasks that progressively corrupts Yuri with the taint of chaos. The presentation here is very good, with Yuri over the course of the campaign being visibly corrupted the more you progress. It gets so bad that he ends up murdering his brother as he makes it to the Howling Citadel.
My brother's lifeless body fell to the ground. The bloodthirster roared as he threw Garrick's screaming skull onto the bridge. I crossed the chasm, the demon beside me.
The voice in his head was Be'lakor, who has imprisoned Urson. Here we get some more good presentation.
What deception is this? Your fate has been guided by my hand. Skolden, curse. Your brother, placed in your way by me. Stones to sharpen you. Why? Because gods are selfish. They will betray you as they betrayed me. I have freed you from their burden.
What I did for Urson.
You did it for yourself. Took what your heart desired.
Yuri completely turns to chaos, shoots Urson, and gets betrayed by Be'lakor. Yuri is then mated to a demon prince, thus kicking off the Realm of Chaos plot. Like I said, it's a pretty good tutorial if you're new to Total War. I recommend playing through it if you move on to the other campaigns. Yes, I understand that this is another XYZ character turns to chaos story, but it's so well presented that I just don't care. What comes directly after this, though, is, not so good. Then we come to Warhammer 3's main campaign, or at least the one we were stuck with at launch for quite a few months, the Realm of Chaos. I hate this campaign with a burning passion, as well as much of the community. Let me get into why starting with the main objective. Yes, I know that the Champions of Chaos have a different objective, but we're talking about what was offered on the table first here. So, your objective is to get to the bear god Urson, with each faction having a reason to do it. Why? Because the advisor told the character that you picked what's going on with Urson, and all of them magically believe the advisor. Some of them are more believable than others, like Kairos Fateweaver, because, well, it's Kairos.
You see the past, and I see the future.
But you are blind to the present. You did not see the maelstrom, nor can you decipher a path through it.
The Tome of Fates holds the answer, the spell we search for. Kill him, brother. Take it.
Only I can use it. The tome is bound to my soul.
We can unpick it. No, let him serve us. For one drop of god blood, I have foreseen it.
But then there's characters like Kastalton who have literally zero reason to believe what the advisor is saying. Kastalton doesn't know him, and the interaction is really dumb, with Kastalton just all of a sudden turning around what is obviously disbelief.
I know where Urson dies. and I can take you to him.
Lies will not save you, disciple of the dark gods.
Listen to me. My book reveals a path to his deathbed. I will show you the way for one drop, just one, of Ursun's divine blood.
Heresy, sin unbound.
It will free me of a chaos-sent curse. It will make me pure. And your faith will save your god.
Bring your book. The motherland endures, whatever the cost.
Yeah, these kinds of interactions shouldn't work out like this. Anyways, the campaign itself has you wait for the Chaos Rifts to pop up so you can collect 4 souls to get Ursun. They'll spread corruption really fast and end up spawning demon armies if you don't close them in time. Each realm has you do different things in order to get to a battle with a demon prince that will grant you 1 soul from each Chaos God. Khorne's realm has you fighting until you've killed enough to get to the soul battle, while Slaaneş's realm tempts you with higher rewards the closer you make it to the middle. Tzeentch's realm can go eat a dick with this stupid puzzle, while Nurgle's realm just has you go through a rotting mud ball of a wasteland. Each demon prince battle is a survival battle where you take points, defend them for a period of time, and then when you get to the end, you fight the demon prince. These are most certainly survival battles because they take quite a bit of time. I thought I'd hate these at first, but I actually ended up enjoying them quite a bit. Like I said before though, the battle maps within the Realm of Chaos are absolutely gorgeous. Like, especially the Tzeentch map, I just can't stop looking at it because it's just so good. But now we get to where it really starts to fall apart. Not only are you participating in this objective, but every other major faction is also participating, which means the entire campaign is a race, and if you aren't fast enough, you'll fucking lose. Not only that, but you have to manage your empire on the main map while your legendary lord is moving around in the Chaos Realm. On harder difficulties, since a lot of people play on them because normal and easy are, well, too easy, it is not a fun time to be had. I'd rather play the Eye of Vortex than this shit. It sucks even more that people had to make mods to turn off the main objective to make the campaign bearable to play. Okay, so after you get all 4 souls, you can go fight Be'lakor in another survival battle. It's an easy time considering your lord is level 50 at this point and your units are very experienced. However, at this point, I really started to get tired of the wooden projectile towers being on every single survival and siege map because it just looked really stupid. More on that later when we get into sieges because I don't understand a lot about sieges in this game, but we'll get to it. When you beat Be'lakor, you get to Ursun, and different things will happen depending on who you're playing. Since I was playing as Gestalten, Ursun managed to be saved, and Kislev is all happy now. Oh yeah, and you get to choose if you want Be'lakor as a lord, and that is pretty cool, I guess. Then you realize you just played an entire Realm of Chaos campaign just to do that, and now you want to move on to what people really care about, Immortal Empires. Okay, thank God, I don't have to play any more Realms of Chaos. But you gotta play the Champions of Chaos campaign. It's different from the saving the no, fuck off. No, I'm done. I'm done with Realm of Chaos. I don't want to fucking play it anymore. Let's get into the good shit, the mega map. Everything has led up to this point, and it is in a beta. Yeah, it's to cover Creative Assembly's ass, but I'm impressed with how stable the mega map is, at least on my part. I've had a few crashes, but nothing to the point that makes the game unplayable. The map is absolutely gorgeous, with Warhammer 3's style of environment and effects. Some people say that the game looks too cartoony, especially with the green environments in Cathay, but I think it's more vibrant that way, like I said before. The new effects with how corruption is shown on the map is also a treat to look at, especially the crazy looking Slaanesh corruption. We got the introduction of 8-player campaigns, which is absolutely amazing. Diplomacy was also improved by allowing us to trade settlements and building up alliances in a different way. Coordination with your allies on the campaign map is much easier. You can build outposts in each other's settlements, and you can even recruit each other's units. Over time, you build up the allegiance points, which means that you can spend them to tell your ally to do certain things such as attacking a certain army or defending a certain settlement, or hell, even giving you an army to use. There is now a trespassing warning button that allows you to declare war on a faction that continuously trespasses against you. The warning allows you to declare war on that faction if they don't leave with no diplomatic penalties, so if you happen to sign a non-aggression pact with that faction, you won't suffer any penalties for declaring war on them. There are also several options of endgame scenarios to spice up the late game as well, which is a very welcome addition to prevent late game auto-resolve fatigue. It's very customizable, and there will be additional features added to the mechanic over time, like recently we just got a mechanic where you could just turn on every single endgame scenario to make it absolute hell on purpose. But now, we'll talk about every single race, because there's 23 of them.
The nation calls. The nation calls.
The nation calls. The nation calls.
The nation calls.
The nation calls.
Starting with the races of Warhammer 1, the Empire is a fan favorite for, obvious reasons.
Summon the Elector Counts.
They're a pretty balanced race with a lot of flexibility. They have guns, greatswords, spears, cavalry, artillery, and motherfucking tanks. Their wizards have 8 different magic types. Yeah, there's a lot for people that are just looking for something that doesn't lean too much into a specific playstyle in battle. The Empire is reminiscent of the historical Holy Roman Empire, and like the Holy Roman Empire, it is a collection of states that do whatever the fuck they want, and you need to tard wrangle them. If you play Karl Franz or Gelt, you have to deal with the absolute shit show that is keeping the Empire itself from collapsing. Vampires, beastmen, Norscan raiders, Festus and his giant chin are among just a few of the threats that you're going to have to deal with. Not only that, there are constant dilemma pop-ups where you have to placate the other Elector Counts. Sometimes they'll take territory from each other, sometimes there will be a raid on one of their cities and they want your help. The whole thing revolves around the system of imperial authority, prestige, and fealty. Your authority is determined by your abilities to solve dilemmas. You'll get buffs if it's positive, but if it gets too low, you'll start suffering annoying debuffs and the other Elector Counts might declare war on you if it's low enough. Your prestige is used as a currency to solve the dilemmas, as well as boosting your relations with the other electors. You can acquire prestige pretty easily by just winning battles constantly. Fealty measures how close the electors are to confederating with you so you can take over their lands. Some are easier than others, but it's recommended that you don't just start declaring war on the other electors to take their lands, since it gives you the aforementioned authority debuffs. When you take over a province capital within the Empire, you can appoint an Elector Count yourself. When you do, that specific character will have bonuses tied to their province. They get a unique item, as well as the Elector Count state troops, which are a separate pool that you can recruit from. Diplomacy is key here, and you're gonna have to handle a lot of problems. Then we have Volkmar the Grim, who was a part of the Grim in the Grave DLC from Warhammer 1. A DLC that wasn't very good because,
My puppets dance.
and also the fact that the two characters it had just shared the same star position with other characters that were already there. And now with Immortal Empires, Volkmar has his own faction, where his goal is to seal away the Books of Nagash. I'm really happy they made this change with him. Next we have Marcus, who was a part of the Hunter and the Beast DLC. Marcus doesn't like lizard people all that much. Marcus is here to have a fun time in the lands of Lustria, where everything wants to fucking kill you. The more he expands, the more units you can acquire. However, increasing your levels of hostility will make it more difficult for you, but the rewards are increased as well. So much in fact that I found myself steamrolling very quickly in my campaign that I was just playing for a brief amount of time. To go along with the hunter theme, you also can get the finest hunters as additional units as well. Oh my, would you look at the time, it's Frenchy time.
What'll you take?
We will take Jerusalem! Deus vult! Deus vult! Deus vult! Deus vult! Deus vult!
Essentially medieval France, Bretonnia focuses on heavy cavalry with the backup of cheaper peasant units. It's very straightforward, and while it may not be my preferred playstyle, it can be pretty fun. The campaign mechanics revolve around chivalry and the peasant economy. Yes, I said the peasant economy. You do certain actions such as constructing relevant buildings, researching technology, or simply being honorable by winning battles to increase your chivalry. Actions like setting up ambushes, declaring war on Bretonnian factions, or building brothels will lower your chivalry. The more chivalry you get, the more bonuses you get, and you will be able to use the Green Knight, a beefy horseboy. The peasant economy, however, limits you on how many peasant units you can recruit before you start taking penalties, because the peasants have to work the land, goddammit. For lords, you have a few options. You can play as the King Luen, or you can choose the Floating Lady if you want to stick around Bretonnia. But if you're in a more Deus Vult kind of mood, you can also play Rapans or Albric. Yeah, if you want to feel like you're going on a crusade, play these boys. But yeah, Bretonnia is not everyone's favorite. Some people think that they deserve an update, but honestly, I think they're pretty straightforward. Your typical orcs and goblins that you have in your fantasy settings, but Warhammer Fantasy flavored. They used to be terrible to play, but they've gotten much better with a needed update in Warhammer 2. The orc factions revolve around building their WA meter by constantly fighting. When it gets full, you can go ahead and call a WA with a focus on melee or ranged attacks. You choose a target settlement to occupy or raise, and you have a set amount of turns to do that. During the course of the WA, your armies will essentially double in size, meaning that you can very quickly steamroll if you play consistently well. Not only that, but if you defeat a rival orc warlord in battle, you can confederate their entire faction. A very orky way of handling things that can be a pretty good time. I mean, hell, they strap flying goblins to catapults as ammo. And the screaming goblins in general just make me laugh a lot. For some reason, it's just funny. They also have the ability to move through terrain on the map using the underway, so moving through mountains and other annoying obstacles aren't that much of a hassle. There's a bit of variety here with lords like Wurzag using savage orcs, while Grimgor favors the heavily armored black orcs. With the King and the Warlord DLC, Skarsnik is on a race to Karak 8 Peaks and cannot recruit orc units until it is taken. He competes with Belegar in Queek Headtaker, and thankfully he has a better start position this time in comparison to before. And then there's Grom from the Warden and the Paunch DLC, a very thick gobbo boy that has a side mechanic of cooking meals to provide some buffs. You search for ingredients around the map as the Troll Hag appears to give you some ingredients from time to time. I think greenskins are a pretty good time in this game, even though most people seem to disagree with me on that one. Sure, their units still aren't the best of the best, but I don't really give a shit about that. I'm just happy they're at least functional on the campaign map now, and I don't have to worry about getting raffle stomped by the other factions. Moving over to the vampire counts, they bring a very interesting roster that lacks ranged units. They make up for this by spamming the shit out of cannon fodder zombies and skeletons with other monsters. Vampire lords can not only recruit units like everyone else, but they can also raise the dead from a pool of available units when they step into a province. With the summoning pool, you can get these units instantly. You're also able to summon stronger units if a big enough battle on the map has taken place. All of this makes up for the lack of range in the roster and gives you the ability on the campaign map to get armies very quickly. Your lords are particularly powerful as well, and you can recruit even more powerful ones by acquiring blood kisses. You can go ahead and pick your flavor as you have a couple of options. Then there's the effect of vampiric corruption. As you take over settlements, corruption takes hold over time on the map and is essential for maintaining your order. Vampiric corruption is also what keeps your armies stable on the map, because if you move into a province where there isn't enough corruption, it will start to crumble. Okay, so is there any downsides in battle besides lack of range? Well, if your lord dies, your entire army just fucking crumbles. Yeah, your skeletons and zombies don't have morale, but they're tied to if they're winning a fight, so just be mindful of that. You have some good variety in lords as well. You have the old boy Kemmler and his best friend Krell, Vlad and Isabella, who are two lords that work best staying together, Manfred, who is now collecting the books of Nagash, and Gorst, who has his own unique faction now. Yeah, Gorst was the second half of the Grim in the Grave DLC, and he's been a pretty big joke in the community considering the fact that Gorst, lore-wise, is a nobody. He seemed like such an odd pick for a DLC lord, but hey, at least he's fun now with the buffs that he gives to zombie spam. I will say that the vampire accounts are not my cup of tea, but they function pretty well for the most part. It's another faction that some people are calling for a rework on, and I'm not really sure about that. I'll leave those thoughts up to you. Yes, the plural here in Warhammer is dwarfs, with an F, not dwarves. The dwarves, fuck. The dwarfs of Warhammer are very spiteful motherfuckers. They will strap their enemies to the projectiles of their catapults. Every single move that is made against them is never forgotten, being recorded in the Great Book of Grudges. If you so much as look at a dwarf wrong, they'll probably be pissed for eternity at you. Everything about them just screams vengeance to their voice lines, like literally.
Send me to vengeance.
It is a reckoning!
They have wronged us. Vengeance! War of vengeance!
War of vengeance!
They have wronged us. Vengeance!
On the campaign map, it is your job to settle those grudges, or else you'll start suffering some debuffs. You also have the currency of Oath Gold that you can use to craft items and runes to improve your units. While also having access to the Underway, they do lack cavalry and monsters, but they make up for it in sheer durability and leadership. Dwarf units are well armored and have good morale, while also being backed up by their good artillery and war machines. A vengeance. In terms of their lords, their variety is good even with the one DLC that they have, the King and the Warlord. This includes Belegar, who is racing towards 8 peaks to take off the annoying debuffs to his forces, while also having access to literal spirits of vengeance. Thorgrim and Thoric are more of the traditional kind of dwarf playstyles, but you do have a more Slayer-focused faction with Ungrim the Slayer King, as well if you want a bunch of yelling shirtless dwarves. And oh god oh fuck, I just said dwarf wrong. In Immortal Empires though, it also gave Gromendal his own faction in the mountains right next to the Dark Elves. He of course is seeking vengeance against Malekith, and I fucking love it. So much in fact that I couldn't stop playing it because of how much of a clusterfuck it is. I'll definitely say this, the hardest part of making this video is not playing a campaign till the very end because I have to move on to the next race. I just wanted to sit there and actually do a whole campaign with Gromendal, and nope, pain. But anyways, if you like pissed off short people, these guys are for you. The Goats of Chaos, also known as the Beastmen, used to be one of the worst factions to play before their update in Warhammer 2. It didn't make it any better with the fact that they were a DLC faction entirely from Warhammer 1, but now they're actually one of my favorite factions to play despite the years of shittiness. They're mostly a horde faction that revolves around acquiring dread and raising your herd stones. They do have a set amount of armies that they can recruit, as well as caps on specific units, so you can't immediately spam good units. Your armies can be made better by spending the dread resource for upgrades and performing herdstone rituals. Herdstones can be raised when you take over settlements and accumulate devastation points for the surrounding settlements that you destroy and battles you fight. When you feel like you've accumulated enough, you perform the ritual, and the points get added to your ruination meter that improves your units and army caps. Beastmen armies also have a chance to ambush by default, while having the ability to use the beast paths to cross terrain that most armies cannot. Campaign armies can be improved with the Dark Moon that triggers every 7 turns as well. Yeah, I know I went through a bunch of information quickly, but that's just how much the Beastmen improved compared to the bad spot that they were in for a while. With these mechanics, Beastmen can become dangerous on the map very quickly, while also spreading chaos corruption on top of the fact that settlements cannot be resettled if they're near a herdstone that has already completed a ritual. Since most factions take attrition from chaos corruption in provinces, it can become an absolute bitch and a half to take out a herdstone through sheer force, so good luck if you have to deal with one. The units themselves are typically lightly armored goat people that hit pretty hard with a nice selection of monsters. However, on the Lord side of things, while there is 4 of them in total, it's not as much as I'd want. Especially with one of them just being DLC and the other 3 also being tied to a DLC. The Call of the Beastmen from Warhammer 1 and the Silence and the Fury from Warhammer 2. Silence and the Fury gave you Torox, who has a side rampage mechanic that unlocks some rewards. He is a fun character to watch in battle, but overall I'm not sure how I feel about the Beastmen when it comes to actually paying for them. There's a dilemma that we'll talk about right now so we can get it out of the way, and that's the clutter of DLC content for the trilogy and the problems of accessibility. Yeah, you knew this was coming. So in order to even play Immortal Empires on your own, you have to own all 3 games, which means at bare minimum, even with Steam sales, that's $100 worth of an entry point, which is not ideal. For some reason though, you can do a multiplayer campaign of Immortal Empires, but only the host has to own all 3 games, while everyone else doesn't. But we know why, it's obvious, they want to sell more of the other games. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like everyone should have access to Immortal Empires. Yeah, at that point you'd only have access to the Warhammer 3 races, but Oh well, let people have their fun without giving them a massive paywall at the beginning. It's just stupid to me. Not only that, there's a ton of content locked off to DLC, with some content considered essential when you're playing certain races. If you like playing Skaven, which we'll get to later, you have units like Rattling Guns and Jezzails locked off to the Prophet and the Warlock DLC for Game 2. I do not like this at all, and shame on whoever was in charge of doing this. Yes, I understand Games Workshop has a play in all of this, but Creative Assembly has done this DLC hoarding bullshit on their own multiple times. Look, it's not the worst thing in the world though, I get it. If you own all 3 games, there's still plenty of fun to be had in Immortal Empires. But I'm a person that holds the older generations of gaming to heart at the times where we didn't have DLC hoarding like this and you got more of a complete experience. You can call this a rant of mine crying over nothing. Oh, I'm just whining over a company just wanting to make more money off to the side. Fine. But when you start locking content that many consider to be essential behind paywalls, going ahead with day 1 DLC, or paywalling fucking blood, it's going to reflect pretty badly on the people who unironically defend Creative Assembly on that one, not those who criticize them. Anyways, rant over, time for Wood Elves. The Wood Elves are an interesting race to play. Stuck in their forests in which they protect, they are the lorax of Warhammer Fantasy. They speak for the trees and will fucking kill you if you mess with them. The trees themselves will also kill you in accordance with Tree Hitler. Their roster focuses on range with some tanky tree boys and fast cav. Yeah, this is more of an elite unit roster, no cannon fodder here. Your goal is to make the trees not sad and give them buffs through getting rid of any threats in the area that affect a forest's point value. Winning a Wood Elf campaign is going to revolve around the big tree, so make sure it doesn't get destroyed or you'll lose. You can go around the map using the world routes and rescue all the other trees as well. Like I said, it's an interesting experience that takes you away from the typical painting the map sort of campaign to a large mix of defensive struggles. However, there is a lord that revolves around just trees pretty much. If you'd prefer her, she just kind of screams a lot. Anyways, the Wood Elves are a DLC race for Warhammer 1, including the separate DLC that includes the Sisters of Twilight. Unless you like some Wood Elves in your life, I definitely wait for a heavy sale on this one. Actually, I will say one thing about the Wood Elves DLC. It is a much better experience than this piece of shit movie. Norsca is a race I'm not too fond of in its current state, although there is cool stuff there to be had. Of course, it's mammoths, mammoths, mammoths. Norsca is made up of a ton of marauders with a few options for ranged. It's a joke in the community thanks to this meme factory that Norskins are monkeys. Besides some cool monster options, I'm not particularly satisfied with the unit roster. I don't think it's horrible or anything, I'm just not a fan. The campaign mechanics feel half-baked to some extent. The Norskins can participate in monster hunts for some bonuses, as well as dedicating raised settlements to a specific god. If you dedicate your allegiance to a certain god enough, you'll get more bonuses. And honestly, that's it for me right there, because, I'm not a fan of Norsca. Yeah, they gave them the ability to actually settle in places other than Norsca. Hooray. Yeah, you do have stuff like confederating Norscan factions if you defeated their warlord in a battle, but we've already spoken about that before with Greenskins, so it's nothing particularly special here. For the price of $10, you get 2 Norscan lords, and yeah, as I said, pass on this one for now. You can tell I'm just not interested in this faction very much. It definitely needs a rework or something to make it better. It's not horrible, it just needs a refresh. Oh boy, do I love Day 1 DLC. To this day, this trailer has a fat dislike counter because obviously we love paywalling a gigantic part of Warhammer Fantasy. It makes it even better with the fact that Warriors of Chaos is essentially split into 2 separate DLCs for 2 games. As you can tell, I'm pretty fucking salty about this, but let's put that off to the side for now and talk about how they are, well, right now. The Warriors of Chaos used to be absolute garbage on the campaign, but now they have an entirely new system to make them not shit anymore. Bolstered by Be'lakor being a free lord and the Champions of Chaos DLC, the warriors have a multitude of flavors now. You can go with any of the 4 gods, or stick with being undivided depending on the lord that you pick. Picking Valkia will focus on units of Khorne, while Fat Shin Festus will focus on Nurgle units. On the campaign, their mechanics revolve around getting a crowd of vassals together, using acquired souls to get more buffs from specific subsets of Chaos, and upgrading the units in your main armies. For the most part, your recruiting is going to come from a pool of units that you get, and you upgrade them over time. Depending on who you're playing, you can have absolute chaos soup. You can go ahead and stick with Undivided, or if you want, you can just choose to mark your marauders with different chaos gods. It is a very, very nice system, and much better than the bullshit we had from before. Thank God. The only problem is the fact that this is split into 2 DLCs, because the Champions of Chaos DLC has a lot of the important units that were not there from before. However, there's a little bit of inconsistency here, like the Chaos Warriors of Khorne are in base game for Warhammer 3, but the Nurgle Warriors, Slaaneshi Warriors, and Tzeentch Warriors are part of this DLC. Because of course they are. Yeah, I'm not very happy about that. Look, if you have all the DLC, then you're gonna have a good time. If you don't, yeah, that's gonna suck. Either way, if you're a fan of the Warriors of Chaos, you will have a good time with them now because they are a lot of fun. Also, I have to mention, I love the new character movies for Archaon, Kolek, and Sigvald because the ones that were there before were not very good. But, of course, we have to talk about the Champions of Chaos DLC lords because there are 4 of them. We have Valkia, Festus, Azazel, and Village. These 4 characters are more specialized to their god, and they take the mechanics of the monogod demon factions with them. I do like this sort of thing because it gives you sub-races within races, which is great. Okay, you know what? Fine. I did a whole nother Realm of Chaos campaign with one of the Champions of Chaos characters, and it was more fun. Instead of the dumb get to the bear race, you have to burn down a metric fuck ton of settlements in order to get to Zanbai Jin. And that's it, you can go anywhere and burn down any place you want. Once you get to Zanbai Jin, you fight a fuck ton of armies. You have to defeat the other 3 champions as well as Archaon, who attempts to stop you. This final battle was actually a lot of fun because of how much of a mess it was, although I wish all 4 champions got to fight each other at the same time rather than one by one. Either way, congrats, it's better than saving the bear. Oh yeah, and Be'lakor's a fun time because you can teleport across the map with the rifts and also make people demon princes when you defeat them in battle. Yeah, it is over time, but holy shit. But yeah, Warriors of Chaos, much better now. Does that magically make me like the DLCs more though? No. Unless these are on super sale, I would not get them. Getting into the races of Game 2, the High Elves are pretty beginner friendly. Their roster is balanced like the Empire, however the High Elves make use of some pretty nice monsters. On the campaign map, they're pretty simplistic with a focus on diplomacy. They can use the influence resource that they get to recruit strong characters, or they can use it to make diplomacy an easier time. High Elves also like trade, as they can make a lot of money through it with some bonuses. The races of Warhammer 2 also have what are called rights. There are 4 of them, and they can award you with temporary buffs if you have the coin. The High Elves have plenty of lords to choose from, with 2 of them being DLC. Alarielle from The Queen and the Crone operates as the protector of the donut. If the donut isn't controlled by High Elf factions, then you start to suffer negative effects. She also has access to tree people as well. The Warden in the Punch DLC brings Altharion, and people are a pretty big fan of that DLC. Altharion can imprison lords and characters and take their battle abilities if you choose to interrogate them. You can also recruit Mistwalker units, which are better than the base game units, and by God, they can be very powerful. The DLC aside, High Elves are pretty good despite me not caring much for them. It's a good place to start if you're a beginner, just don't play Altharion because it can get a little bit complicated.
Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate. You're har fiddle-dee-dee. Being a pirate is a wretched thing. Do what you want, cause a pirate is free. You are a pirate.
The Dark Elves, on the other hand, are not diplomacy friendly. They want slaves, and lots of them because that's where they make their money. Their unit roster is also well balanced with the emphasis on quality over quantity, but not High Elf flavored. Dark Elves in this universe are edgy as fuck, way more than Chaos by the way, Besides their slave economy, another big part about them is acquiring their black arcs, which are mobile sea settlements that provide abilities to nearby armies. Their lords also have a loyalty mechanic alongside the Skaven and Vampire Coast, where they could defect if you disappoint them too much. Loyalty isn't very difficult to keep up, so it's not much to worry about. As for their lords, they have 6, with 2 of them being DLC. Malekith is a bitch baby who wants the donut real bad, Morathi is a whore who also spreads Slaanesh corruption and can recruit demonettes, Lokir is your pirate flavor of Dark Elves, while Rakarth collects monsters for himself. When it comes to DLC, you got Crone and Malice Darkblade. Crone is twice as edgy because she has to constantly murder people and host Death Knights. Malice, on the other hand, is possessed by a whispering Slaanesh demon and wants to keep the damn thing quiet. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I don't care much for the elves. Yeah, these are definitely ones that I'm just skimming past because I was not too interested in talking about them, but I'm sure others care more about elves than I do. I think both of these elf factions function perfectly fine. I don't have any substantial issues with them. If you like yourself some elves, go for it. The Lizardmen are a very interesting bunch to me because at this point I haven't played them at all. They never piqued my interest, but playing them a bit here has turned me around. I do like them, but they definitely need a rework in terms of campaign mechanics. The 3 DLC lords are fine and they pack a bunch of flavor, but that doesn't fix the problem that the other ones have. They have a mechanic to improve province maintenance and can do a few spicy things with their rights, and that's it. They can summon some units, I guess. Yeah, I hope they get a bit of a change soon. Their unit roster, on the other hand, is tough as nails. They have great spellcasters, they have a good amount of monsters with some cold-blooded infantry that are hard to break. They lack quite a bit of the range department and can be quite slow if you're not using armies that focus more on the weaker skinks. For DLC though, I mentioned that they bring a bit of flavor to the table. The Prophet and the Warlock brings you to Hinowin, Hunter and the Beast gives you Nakai, while the Silence and the Fury gets you Oxiodal. Hinowin sacrifices a bunch of people for some strong abilities. Nakai serves his namesake by wandering around the map as a horde army. He focuses on building up vassals that will progressively make him stronger. Oxiodal is a teleporting chameleon that starts off in the southern wastes to fuck up some demons. In the right times, you can go all over the map to deal with threats and place buildings in enemy provinces that will help you fight your enemy. Out of all of these guys, Oxiodal was definitely up there for me, as I thoroughly enjoyed the fact that this chameleon is the embodiment of teleports behind you. So, Lizardmen. Yeah, they need a bit of help on the campaign, but overall they're pretty solid. Oh boy, another undead faction, and I fucking love these guys. I mean, look at them, they got giant scorpions, cats, some guy holding up a lamp with fucking laser eyes, what's not to love? The Tomb Kings, modeled off of Egyptians, have a unit roster that is not like the vampires at all. Yeah, they have skeletons, but they have ranged and artillery, and they have plenty of constructs. On the campaign, though, units are completely free, but you do have a specific unit cap, as well as a cap on armies. These can be improved through research and general progression through the Mortuary Cult. You are also trying to look for the Books of Nagash, because Nagash is a bitch, alongside his bitch boy Ark in the Black. They also harvest organs, and require lots of them to get some pretty nice shit. Tomb Kings can be a bit of a challenge at first with the very limited army, but damn it feels good to get a good campaign going. It is a DLC race pack, but I think it's worth the entry fee. You get 4 lords with varying experiences. Cetra does not serve and has more titles attached to him than you can remember. I'm not joking, it's absolutely ridiculous how many titles this guy has. Ark in the Black is a bitch boy that no one likes because he wants to serve Nagash really badly. He's buddy-buddy with vampires and can recruit some of their units even. Kalido wants to fuck up vampires while DJ Katep wants to fuck up dark elves. This is a pretty good race pack with the flavor it brings to the table, so I'm all for these guys. Yeah, their campaigns can be a little bit challenging, but a lot of us like a challenge.
Rats, we're rats. We're the rats. We pray at night, we stalk at night. We're the rats.
I'm the giant rat that makes all of the rules.
Let's see what kind of trouble we can get ourselves into.
Hey y'all, I'm That Creepy Reading, and I love these evil ratmen way too much. Something about having a lot of easy gold, nukes, and big rat monsters on meth just tickles the power gamer side of my brain. However, before I get into all that fun stuff, I have to give a bit of a warning. Total Warhammer, and more specifically playing Skaven in Total Warhammer, is a big investment if you want to have real fun with this faction. First, you will need to buy Total Warhammer 2. Then you'll need to get the Prophet and the Warlock, the Twisted and the Twilight, as well as the Shadow and the Blade. Why? Because these nerds are lame as hell. I'm not the perfect person to call about balance, as I'm a hard to very hard scrub, so I really can't speak on the balance of Queek Headtaker, but I can tell you that he has no real interesting overworld mechanics compared to the DLC. No equivalent to the Flesh Lab, or the Nuke Workshop, or the Naruto Mission Board. What does this mean for the game? It means that every single time playing someone like Ikit Claw at first, then confederating Queek, will always be better than playing Queek and then confederating Ikit. It's dumb, and these lords feel so outdated and in the past. It's a relic of a more boring version of Total Warhammer. And that's not even talking about missing units unless you get these DLC. Without Deathmaster, you won't get Poison Wind Mortars. Without Ikit, you're missing essential units like Rattling Guns and Jezzails. And without Throt the Thought, you're without cool monsters that make the army fun and, dare I say, cool. If these lords were bundled together in a $10 to $15 pack, then maybe I could overlook it, but you need to buy 3 separate $10 DLC just to make this faction feel complete. This is on top of a $60 price tag on Total Warhammer 2, which of course is essential to playing Immortal Empires in Total Warhammer 3, which of course is another $60. So assuming there's no sales going on, you're looking at an upfront price of $150 just to play this faction as intended. Because instead of being able to buy the lords you want to get the units you need, you're instead forced to buy 3 separate DLC that come bundled with a Dark Elf, a Wood Elf, and the lamest Lizardman Lord on top of the actual content that you're really interested in. Now, you get bits and pieces of 3 different factions that you may or may not like at all. In the Twisted and the Twilight's case, you're given a Wood Elf Lord, which itself is a part of a faction that costs an additional $19, which of course is still a part of Total Warhammer 1, which is still fucking $60. Considering the content from these 2 base games are substandard compared to what they've made in recent years and have been in a very bad state for a long time, you'd think that the value would depreciate over the course of 6 years, but that's not the case. It's like a Nintendo Switch game. Sales can help, but there's no excuse for pricing the game like this. There is so much more DLC that has yet to come that is currently planned, and the state of the game is daunting for new players to get into. And normally I'd leave it at that, except the Ratmen are fun! They're very fun once everything is in place. As long as you stick to these lords, you'll have a fantastic time. Look at this nuke. Wow, lots of dead people there. This guy can turn into a goddamn lawnmower. It's really satisfying, and god damn it, I spent too much money. Hey, it's that creepy guy who bitches, except this time I won't complain. The Vampire Coast is a DLC that adds zombie pirates to the game, all in one $19 race pack that for the time being requires no additional DLC. Generally, I recommend sticking with LUTHOR HARKON and Count Noctilus. LUTHOR is straightforward and is crazy. LUTHOR HARKON! His goddamn voice lines, however, drive me crazy in real life. Every time you click on LUTHOR to do anything he says, LUTHOR HARKON! He does this every goddamn time you click on him. And honestly, it wouldn't be that bad if he didn't screech it for so long. Fuck LUTHOR HARKON. I don't care how decent he is. Fuck that voice line. LUTHOR HARKON! Now, Count Noctilus, he's my main go-to. He gets a mount which doubles as a giant zombie ship, which is great at any range. Plus having access to summons, bullshit vampire magic, more summons, and regeneration makes him a forgiving lord to play with some of the most deadly magic in the game. In the current meta, magic is just way too good to ignore, and Noctilus is some of the best. Plus, he's a pirate. If you play multiplayer, it's very easy to assist people in many different areas. You have a variety of different people you can fight. Overall, he's one of the best. Many factions. Very nice. Vampire Coast uses a combination of settlement and horde mechanics to make the perfect nomadic army. While their melee may not be great, the artillery is some of the best the game has to offer, and the range units are amazing. You could even make your own pseudo undercities on port towns, which allows you to sap their income through pirate coves. Set and forget, easy money. In general, I tend to avoid Salt Spite and Ghost Siren Lady because not only do I struggle to pronounce their names, they're not my favorite to play. Ethereal units can be fun, they have a lot of physical resistance, but I find they just go down too quickly. Salt Spite on paper should be fine, but in actual play, she loses more often than not. Fun for variety and the different start locations, but yeah, I'm gonna play another Count Noctilus game. With this faction, you pirate, steal, burn, sing sea shanties, then L plus ratio plus plundered, ye got scurvy your way to a fun adventure every time. Very good, and I recommend especially if you get this one on sale. Also, sorry for delaying this video, that is solely my fault. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
A program about sieges because we still need to talk about them. Sieges are a big point of contention in the community due to how they've changed from Warhammer 2. In general, sieges haven't had the best history in Total War. People have frequently made fun of the fact that units will just pull ladders out of their ass while also having an irrelevant focus on siege towers and rams. In the Warhammer trilogy, people found it easier to just use monstrous units, artillery, and the bullshit magical ladders to win a siege. Not only that, the AI is known to be easily cheesable, so it made the whole design behind sieges to be a complete mess. In Warhammer 3, however, CA has put an immense amount of effort into completely overhauling how sieges work. Siege maps have been changed to include multiple control points that correspond to certain areas on the map, where the defender can construct barricades and projectile towers. Over time, the defender will be able to construct more of them as long as they control the points on the map that gives them more of the supply resource. The maps themselves have gone from very simple grids to complicated stretches of roads that benefit the respective factions that originated on the map. With the addition of Immortal Empires, we've received some fantastic looking maps, and being on the defense is actually a pretty good time. However, many people have voiced their displeasure with the amount of sieges that you participate on the campaign map, including the addition of minor settlement battles. People hate these with a burning passion, and to be honest, so do I. I don't want to say that they happen too often because a lot of people end up saying that. Considering how big Immortal Empires is and how many settlements are on the map, there is just going to be a lot of settlement battles. With minor settlement battles, I just don't have a fun time playing on them. What makes it worse is the godforsaken wooden towers that plague every settlement map. They're not even towers that reflect the aesthetic of the map that you're playing on, it's the same wooden towers. Yeah, they can be quite annoying when they inflict quite the amount of casualties on your attacking army, but I'm not advocating for their complete removal here. Just to make them less annoying, please. Yeah, it really sucks because there was a lot of effort put into these maps, but I don't want all of that work to be thrown away. I hope there is ways to make these battles more fun without having to use mods to make it less annoying. At its core, I like the siege overhaul, they just need to be tweaked a bit, and I think much of the community's problems with them can be easily ironed out in updates. At the same time, they could give us an option to just turn off minor settlement battles, or change it to where you don't have to fight them on a tier 1 settlement. Either way, it's a welcome addition to the game, it just needs some additional work. Insert Soviet Union joke here, Kislev is Warhammer Russia with a dash of Poland, which means yes, you have the winged hussars. Kislev's unit roster is filled with bears, And bears. So much in fact that people were put off by all of the bear cult stuff because the other gods of Kislev feel so ignored. And while I do agree with that, it doesn't bother me too much. But it feels strange that characters like Katerin are riding on a bear along with everyone else. Oh well, I guess. So other than bears, Kislev's unit roster has many hybrid units that are competent in both range and melee. On top of that, most units have the Buyer Blood ability, which makes them unbreakable for a short period of time, if they're wavering. So, for Kislev, you definitely have a unit roster that is more, how do I put this, flexible than the Empire in a way? Their infantry at the start definitely performs better because, Jesus Christ, you have to deal with so much shit. Yeah, in Immortal Empires, Kislev is an absolute shit show. You are immediately dogpiled by enemies very close to you and don't expect the other Kislev factions to be alive by the time you can confederate them. It's a very hectic experience with mechanics that I find to be somewhat lacking. You have the devotion resource that you can increase by making churches and defeating chaos armies. If it gets too low, chaos armies will just spawn in your territory. With enough devotion, however, you can spend it on temporary bonuses from the 4 gods, or to limit the supporters of your rival. Oh yeah, the rivalry. So there's this guy Kistalton and this lady Katerin. They compete for supporters because they're not the biggest fans of each other. These supporters will progressively give you bigger buffs, leading up to the other side confederating with you once you max it out. I'm not the biggest fan of this because not only is it just a race for some buffs, but by the time you get all the supporters you need, the other Kislev factions will just be destroyed anyways. Not only that, there's also the boy Boris Ursus, the demon killer, who can just throw supporters at a side despite him existing to fight demons up north. Yeah, to me this doesn't make much sense, so I hope it changes at some point in the future. We also have the admin system of governors, I guess? They can give some buffs and lead armies, much like the electors from the Empire. And finally, we get the Ice Court, a mechanic to train the ice witches that Kislev uses. I think it's pretty cool, except for the part where Kistalton gets to use the mechanic despite hating the Ice Court? Probably a time constraint on Creative Assembly's part, but I would have thought that Kistalton would have his own mechanics for Patriarchs. Oh well, other than the weird campaign mechanics, Kislev is a good mess to play if you want non-stop invasions. Either that, or playing Russian Doom Guy with Boris, because I sure as hell enjoyed that campaign. Moving on to Warhammer China. It is a very neat looking place with some neat as hell units. They have giant terracotta sentinels as monster units, and I love it. Aside from a lot of cheaper peasant units, they have plenty of elite units as well. The typical gunpowder unit lines, along with some motherfucking war balloons. But of course, the main focus of Cathay is the Dragon Lords themselves. Mao Ying and Zhao Ming are shape-shifting dragons that seek to maintain balance of yin and yang, and telling Chaos to fuck off from the Great Bastion because they are a constant threat. Unless it's Village, because he'll just teleport over the wall and piss you off. Mentioning yin and yang though, everything in Cathay revolves around that. Some buildings will add yang, some will add yin. If you have everything perfectly balanced, you're gonna have a great time. If you don't, there will be lopsided effects present depending on how unbalanced yin and yang are. Not only that, you also have harmony in battles where yin units will gain benefits being near yang units. Same the other way around. All of this generally makes Cathay a defensive faction in battle. There's also the Wu Compass that you can realign depending on when you need it, and a whole system around caravans. You can get quite the amount of money from sending caravans to the other side of the continent, but keep in mind those caravans can also be attacked, so you'll probably have to fight battles to protect them or have certain scenarios that go on where you can upgrade those caravans. Cathay is probably my favorite addition to Warhammer 3. Something about having these balloons and terracotta sentinels running around just puts a grin on my face, but I can tell that Cathay will definitely get more content in the future, as we only have 2 lords with a roster that could definitely use a bit more. I'll be looking forward to it. So I mentioned earlier that the Ogres were the Day 1 DLC for this game, and as you know, that doesn't make me very happy. There is a lot to like about these guys, but I don't recommend paying $12 to play them. Greasus and Scrag are cool characters, don't get me wrong, but making this Day 1 DLC was a pretty shitty move. Their army is mostly made up of monstrous ogre infantry, war beasts, and a bit of gunpowder, And of course, meet Shield Noblars. They're a great time in battle and can absolutely fuck up armies with their beefy charges and weapon strength alone. However, this does come at a cost of copious amounts of meat. You see, ogre armies need a steady supply of meat, otherwise they start to wither away. They can also consume their meat supply to give them an edge in battle beforehand, which can be extremely useful if you just want to auto-resolve a battle. In order to continuously gorge yourself in endless meat, you either have to win battles, set up specific buildings, or be near an ogre camp. Being near a camp that you place down on the map means that your army won't consume any meat, and this is where the problem arises. You only have a certain amount of camps that you can place, and that makes an annoying problem with expansion in Immortal Empires. You absolutely need, that steady supply of meat, or you'll be in a world of hurt. Not only that, those camps are the only settlements that you have that can be upgraded to tier 5, as any of the normal settlements you capture can only go up to tier 3. And yes, that does include the province capitals, so you're gonna be screwed in a lot of cases. Besides the mess surrounding the meat mechanic, you do have other things as well. Not only are ogres nomadic in nature, they are also mercenaries that can fulfill contracts for gold and diplomatic influence. While I do like that mechanic in concept, the contracts given normally aren't feasible to take, which is unfortunate. Then you have the big names mechanic, where your characters can acquire a title that gives them certain buffs depending on certain objectives that you complete. Creative Assembly definitely try to make this a nomadic feeling faction, and they do, don't get me wrong, but I think they still need a bit of work. But as an actual faction that you pay for, yeah, hell the fuck no, give this one a pass for now. There comes a time online where you've probably heard the phrase blood for the blood god, and that of course comes from the chaos god Khorne and the Warhammer universes. Khorne demands violence every second of the damn day, and the Khorne faction led by Skarbrand will oblige. Your currency is literal skulls, which can be used as tribute to buff the faction. Hell, sometimes you can just find them lying around on the map from battles that were fought by other factions. You don't have to worry about settling settlements that much either, as they will be filled in over time if you have a settlement in the region. Everything else, though, is nothing but murder. You have a murder meter where everything that you murder gives you more buffs. You can spawn armies for extra murdering, as well as fighting Khorne armies that you can make appear for extra murdering. Khorne is very straightforward if you couldn't tell. As for the demonic units, though, they're similar to undead in not having morale at all. Instead, as their leadership lowers because, they're losing a battle or their lord dies, the demonic units eventually go poof. The monogod demon factions can also place cults around in regions that have enough of the required corruption. Depending on the god you're playing, they can do different things, but they can definitely help you out. They work similar to the Pirate Coves and Skaven Undercities. As for Khorne's roster, it's mostly elite melee infantry with very little ranged in the Soul Grinder and Skull Cannon. Since Khorne hates spellcasters, they obviously don't get any. To be honest, Khorne is actually something I'd recommend to new players given how simplistic the race's playstyle is. So if you like tons and tons of murdering for more buffs, give the Murder Boys a try to get some skulls for the Skull Throne. The disease-ridden Mudball Demons. What's not to love about big green boys that will literally shit on their enemies? You want to give everyone the gift of disease by making your own and upgrading them over time as you spread your annoying debuffs around. The gifts of Grandfather Nurgle around. All of this will of course cost infection points that you'll acquire over time. Their units are some of the biggest eye candy that has been introduced into Warhammer 3. They're just full of happiness and joy despite the fact that they look like this, and will of course take joy in spreading Grandfather Nurgle's love. Like, let's take the Nurgling specifically. They look like a moving liquid as they roll across the field. So other than that, the Nurgle roster is designed to coexist with all of the diseases that you spread on the campaign map. The units themselves are slow moving and made to outlast the enemy, while your plagues grind them down. Not a lot of people are fans of this playstyle because it's a literal mudball and it doesn't move very fast, but I'm actually favorable to it because I think it's absolutely hilarious. I mean, come on, I love these stupid frogs as they bounce around having a good time. On the campaign though, their settlements also go through this life cycle as buildings wither and start anew. As your buildings go through this life cycle, you have units that are added to a pool that can be recruited instantly, and they will increase over time. A very fitting thematic playstyle that I appreciate. The beginning though can be pretty difficult, but once you get the mud the ball rolling, you're going to be spreading your gifts to everyone. Slaanesh, on the other hand,
You may touch me only in dreams.
Yeah. If you don't know, Slaanesh is basically the whore god where everything is about the pursuit of his followers' desires. This can be pretty much everything, so don't expect a horny wonderland in the slightest. Surprisingly, this isn't toned down in the game, as Slaanesh is definitely Slaanesh. In battle, their units are pretty quick glass cannons with bonuses on flanking the enemy, so you'll definitely want to make use of the variety of demonettes, monsters, and chariots that will get you to victory. On the campaign, however, Slaanesh factions focus more on diplomacy and seducing their enemies behind the scenes. Over time, through corruption, defeating lords in battle, and secret cults, you'll build up your corruption to the point where you can force vassalization on that faction, as well as gaining plenty of diplomatic relationships. Not only that, but you can also seduce some of their units in battle to your side as extra meat shields. Yeah, Slaanesh mechanics can be a little crazy, but it's definitely an interesting time spreading your devotees all over the place. Speaking of those, devotees is a currency that can be used for actions including the usage of pleasurable acts and disciple armies. The acts give you some temporary buffs, while disciple armies are extra units that you throw at the enemy. On the campaign side of things, the Slaanesh playstyle is actually something that's really interesting, but I'm not a fan of how they play in battle. Definitely not something I would recommend to a new player. Everything about Tzeentch is strange and full of bullshit. Being the god of magic and also pranking people, there's gonna be some weird things happening on the campaign map. Through the use of grimoires for the ways of change, you can fuck up other factions by causing rebellions, breaking alliances, transferring settlements to other people or yourself, and much more. It's the embodiment of "it's just a prank, bro." Tzeentch has other abilities such as using teleportation as a stance and manipulating the magic pool on the map, but the ways of change is the showpiece for this monogod faction. In battle though, I'm not a fan of how Tzeentch plays. The roster consists of a number of ranged units, spellcasters, living flamethrowers, and giant fucking birds. On top of that, all Tzeentch units have a bonus shield bar on top of their health bar, which means that Tzeentch units are going to be an absolute pain to deal with if you're fighting against AI. Not a pain for you really, but a pain for the AI. So why am I not a fan of Tzeentch's playstyle? Well, it's because, much like Tzeentch, you're going to be spending the entire time infuriating your opponent through copious amounts of cheese. Combine the bonus shields and also the ranged units, you can absolutely destroy in battle to the point where the entire army feels like a meme. I mean, you do have quest battles where Kairos fights his past and future self. At the same time, though, the army does feel very thematic for Tzeentch. I just think it's boring to play. Now, I've avoided bringing this up until now, but all of the monogod demon factions were recently updated to include mortal units respective to their god through the Champions of Chaos DLC. They should have been there in the first place, but at least they exist now because all of the demon rosters were very much lacking. Oh yeah, and thank God for fixing the Chaos Donkey Riders, they have actual proper mounts now. Alright, final race. It's basically Demons of Chaos Undivided. Undivided encompasses all four gods and doesn't have a preference within the four. The Demons of Chaos have only one lord, and that is...
Daniel.
Seriously, Daniel? Is that what people... Why do people call him Daniel? Can someone remind me of that, please? Yeah, it's Yuri from the Prologue, but obviously he's not going to go by that name anymore. And yes, you can name the Demon Prince as well. Did you get it?
I clicked off the ready up and it not changed back.
Oh, we'll see what happens.
I was trying to change it to Gaylord Steambath, but it's not working.
Just fucking...
There we go. Oh, it won't accept gay.
Oh, it won't accept... Okay, no, put A. No, put the at for, you know, when you do an email, put that.
I put E.
Okay, does that work?
Gaylord Steambath. Yes, it worked.
They actually fucking blocked you from putting the word gay in there. That's fucking amazing. But there's not much to this faction at all besides the fact that you get pretty much every single demonic unit. Yeah, you get demonic glory and gifts, but it's not particularly exciting to explain, so I just don't care. While I do enjoy a bit of the customization of the Demon Prince, this faction just kind of feels tacked on because the game needed Demons of Chaos Undivided as a faction. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think this faction should absolutely exist, just not in its current state. Yeah, it's Daniel. And that's every race, thank God. So, we're at the end of this video now, huh? Alright, I love this game. I've had an absolute addiction to it for, like, the past 2 months, so, yeah, I recommend buying it if you care a lot about Warhammer Fantasy, but if you don't, it can be a little bit of a hard thing to get into, especially with Immortal Empires being locked off. Yeah, there's a lot of these scummy business practices that Creative Assembly participates in, but there's so much work and magic put into this game that I kind of feel like it overshadows those negatives. Despite my opinion there, I do think that Creative Assembly deserves the criticism that has been levied their way, especially with the state that this game was in at launch. People were not very happy, and neither was I. But fast forward to all of these months later, and this game is definitely shaping up, and there will be many updates to this game over the years. With further DLC, I'll probably make a review for every single one that comes out. Other than that, yeah, I'm gonna call it quits here, because this video was an absolute pain in the ass to make. You guys have a good time, and I'm gonna go to bed.
Why are people going to Crab Rave to talk about the Dead Queen?